Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Cool Down. This is our second episode. This is a show where we talk about the weekend's fixtures that happened over the weekend of the Premier League. We're going to kick off with an exciting game, or at least on paper. It wasn't really exciting at all. But tell us what happened there, Sello. Man United, Chelsea. There was bad weather and there was a bad performance. Well, I wouldn't say bad performance. I mean, the result was there for both sides, but it wasn't very entertaining on the eye. It felt like a PSL game.
No, I think more than anything, right, is that both teams know that they are poor defensively, or they have been defensively this season. So no one really wanted to make silly mistakes at the back. So they wanted to be, quite compact and make sure that the defense does what it's required. Don't take too many risks going forward. And you can see with the Chelsea lineup playing with a back three and obviously when they were defending would be a back five. And Solskjaer, I think, he also obviously set up in a way where he was quite cautious. But Man United have a couple of shots on target that Mendy saved. So obviously, I think, it was both teams didn't wanna give away too much. In the end, it wasn't a memorable game. But we'll take the point. It's the first point we've gotten at home. So I guess the one positive is a clean sheet. A clean sheet is always a positive, but I honestly feel he should have at least tried to go for it a bit, because I think Chelsea was there for the taking.
Yeah,
you talk about the defense. I thought Lindelof made a big difference. I thought he looked really solid at the back, seemed to bring a bit of calm, which you guys had been missing for a while. So be cool. I think it might be good for you guys to see him a bit more. Yeah, no,
definitely. I think he's like the first couple of games he wasn't as great, but these last two games in the PSG and against Chelsea he had a great game in both games. Couldn't fault him for anything. Timo Werner, Havertz, they were quite quiet on the night. Pulisic, these guys, you didn't really see much of them in the game. Chelsea really didn't have opportunities, whereas Man United had a couple of shots where I think maybe on a different day, if it was Kepa in the goals, Man United would have won, But I think Mendy made saves that he should have made, but that Kepa never makes saves he's supposed to make. So I think if Kepa wasn't goals, Man United would have won.
Can I ask you about the penalty that Chelsea should have got? The Harry Maguire chokehold.
Which one? Are you talking about the one where Reece James was holding Maguire in the box?
No, not that one. You know which one we're talking about because
that was a stone penalty. That should have been a penalty. You can't be grabbing a person around their neck in the box. That should have been a penalty. VAR again has had a howler. Like literally, the ref didn't even go review it, which is even worse. It should have been a point where he should tell, "Hey ref, please have a look at this," and then the ref should go to the monitor and then have a look and make a decision for himself if it's a penalty or not. And that wasn't even done. So it's quite poor in that regard. And I think definitely Chelsea were robbed of a penalty there. But similarly as well, I think the media hasn't reported on the Reece James holding Maguire in the box as well. So Maguire actually posted on his Instagram story where he was being manhandled in the box by Reece James. The media has conveniently forgotten to shed some light on it, you know what I mean?
But no one the cameras couldn't even pick up Reece James's arms because Harry Maguire's head's so big. So I think it was just in the way. I think that's just
it's a little bit I've been holding not pulling down your own defenders.
Slaphead actually didn't have a bad game except for that challenge. He was quite assured, but people were saying that he thought that Azpilicueta was someone in Greece.
But I think both sides were both sides defended well, but also neither side was hugely tested. Like I expected United to have a big problem with the pace of Werner and have up front. I really thought that was. I mean, fair play to Lindelof and Maguire. I think they did a good job, kind of positionally, and they read the game very well. But I think that Chelsea and United both didn't really throw everything they could up front and didn't really test each other's defenses very well. Because there was a moment at the beginning where Mendy also had a bit of a mix-up, bit of uncertainty, and he recovered very well. Did some really and he had a good, very assured performance, which I think Chelsea would be well. I think both sides didn't really test each other's defenses as much as you would have expected for a fixture like this. Although that said, maybe a draw was exactly what both teams would have preferred, because I think if either side had lost, it would have been a huge story. United in particular, I think if you guys had lost this game, it could have been a big issue for Solskjaer.
I think to Matt's point there, it's interesting because of how the Premier League has gone up until this point. We thought there was going to be another roller coaster. Both sides haven't been defending well, but it was just one of those where both managers just thought, points better off than, in the long-term scheme of things, point towards both teams is far better than one of them actually going for it and losing all of it. So, sorry, Nick.
No, I think it's just quite ironic because I think we thought there was just going to be goals, and more goals because of the sort of defensive performances. So I think if there's a positive for both teams, it would be that. Nothing really to write home about going forward, which is obviously something that I'd look to sort of kick on in the next game. But I think if there's a positive out of it for Frank and for Ole is that they kept a clean sheet against one of the top six, and a clean sheet doesn't really come around that often in season 2021. It's I think if you are to kick on, that could be it now for Man United. Tough game next against Arsenal, so it will be interesting to see how they fare.
And I also think good form from De Gea. I mean, in the PSG game, he pulled off some amazing saves, and it seems like it's been carrying through. So he's going to be a huge piece for United in whatever they get out of the season. If he can keep his form and actually be the De Gea of old, then United have a chance at anything, really, or at least in the top four.
No, definitely. He's had a good start to the season for both Man United and Spain. He's had good performances. And I think there was an article where they said that he in the preseason he was training with an ex-junior coach of his. Like they met up and whatever, and he was training with him. So, and also obviously with Dean Henderson coming in, he knows that if his form drops a bit, that Dean Henderson is there to take his place and to play for a considerable amount of time. So obviously he had to up his game and be at the standards that he set before. So he's definitely started the season well, and the PSG game was amazing. The saves that he made, some of them were saves he's expected to make, but some of them were really amazing.
Claudio, you need to tell us now, what do you think of the post Van Dijk injury, post Pickford, aka Assassin incident? How did you guys recover? What are your thoughts?
Assassin.
The guy's ending careers here. The man's ending careers.
I think the hype that we caused on our show last week has definitely set a little bit of target on Everton, seeing as Digne got sent off for standing on another player's foot. He made it look accidental, but we all know it really wasn't. Those dirty tactics from Napoli have filtered their way in from Italy all the way to Merseyside.
His 3-match ban got reduced to 1 game, so that says a lot.
I think that's fair. No, I do think it's a 1-game ban. Definitely not a 3-game ban, but it's the dark arts there from the Italian maestro in Ancelotti, in my opinion. And then, like you said, I carried over through the Liverpool game, and now it's spilt. And now there's how the English are. If there's enough hype, then they start nitpicking. So it's good. It's good that the focus on Everton. It gives them some pressure, and to see if they can handle the pressure. And apparently they couldn't on the weekend. I know we're talking about the Liverpool game now, so enough about those scoundrels. The Liverpool game was good, man. I enjoyed it. It wasn't pleasing on the eye, but from a tactical point of view, We obviously threw in Fabinho at the back, which was great, playing with Joe Gomez. They've started again, and they did successfully well. Obviously, I'm getting super fatigued talking about VAR, but the penalty that we suffered was ridiculous. He makes a tackle, Fabinho. He wins the ball. It's on the edge he's actually in the inside of the box. The players on the outside of the box, they end up giving a penalty. But, two champions, that didn't really bother them. But what I liked about how they set up was they had Van Halden and Henderson sitting in front of the back two, which gave us extra protection. They dropped Firmino into the number 10 role, which is something he fulfills anyway. And we actually accommodated Jota. So every time we broke forward, we looked menacing because we had so much pace. So normally we have Mane and Salah, and now throws Jota in the mix. It's just filthy. It's absolutely dangerous. And just wait until Thiago comes back. And I hear he's training again by himself. So chances are he might be on the bench and he might come off the bench for the weekend. He's definitely not going to play tonight in the Champions League game. So with him in the middle there, and he can pick up between three players, I think Liverpool are going to be absolutely dangerous. And it was just nice for them to come back. Obviously, Sheffield are no walkovers. They made them work for the points. But at the end, they did what they had to do. So, yeah, super pleased, super chuffed. Not much else to say.
For you guys also, I mean, it was probably the perfect result with you got Everton dropping points, Villa dropping points, Man United, Chelsea. I'm just talking about teams that are looking sort of to sort of kick on towards you guys. It's probably the best sort of weekend for you guys, yeah? I think
most definitely.
Weekend, Arsenal also dropping points.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, last week we were talking about how it was going to be difficult for Liverpool to challenge for the league. And now just the nature of what the league is, like you said, everyone's dropped points and now they're looking all right again. So it's funny how these things tend to work in waves. And in Liverpool's case, it was a quick wave. It was a little bit of a blip, and it seems like they found their feet. What I'm really excited about is that Jota is the first player since Mane to score 2 goals at Anfield consecutively since 2016. So, like I said, we've got a lively player there who's got a high ceiling that he can reach. And if he's already giving us so much in terms of work rate off the ball, in terms of on the ball, in terms of runs in behind, so it's just a beautiful option. Like I said previously, is that Divock Origi used to be our B plan. Now we've got like a C, D, E, F, G plan. I mean, tonight's game, there's probably going to be a big rotation against the Danish side that they're playing in the Champions League. So super stoked, super excited. And I don't think this is going to hurt. I know it's just against Sheffield, and I might sound like I'm getting carried away here. But
I agree with you in terms of the Jota signing. I think I had spoken early on in this vlogcast is, for me, I think the one thing, if Liverpool were missing something from last year or last season, was a sort of backup front three or an individual who is sort of part of that backup. Because if you look at the front three of City, they can change their front three, and their front three is as good or maybe just slightly less quality than their starting front three. And I think that was something, and you guys were probably fortunate with, you had majority of your front three fit for most of the season. And I think adding a Jota is a great signing. And when we get to the Newcastle Wolves game, I think it's someone Wolves are actually missing this season.
Definitely.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, and I like that point. I like that point that you're saying. And we placing a lot of emphasis on Jota here because he's kind of come out of nowhere a little bit. Yeah, he's come out of nowhere a little bit. Obviously, people know of his potential if you followed Wolves and, but no one would have necessarily expected him to make the jump to a big side like this and show the potential that he's doing. He's currently his confidence is high and he's doing well. But what I'm excited about as well is we do have the likes of Minamino. We do have 1 or 2. Shaqiri, he didn't leave the club. So we do have other options, whether it is to come off the bench or not. And the reason Bobby here is my background tonight is he did finally score a goal at Anfield. So it's been a while. But one of the your sound is on, Wonga. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Wonga. He is having some technical difficulties.
No, it's just this luck. I mean, they don't let us score a goal. VAR, now it's all pulling through to me this side here. Just a bad weekend for Arsenal. Jeez.
And your sound sounds like you're a pilot ready to take off here, but it's good. You're ready to take the show on a new level, new heights. But Bobby's facts in terms of, or his stats rather, in the game on Saturday, he covered the most mileage. He played the number 10 role and he had 42 touches. So to the debate we constantly have between Sello and I, it just shows that how versatile a player like this is. And when a player like this, who is a number 9, who plays a number 10 role, can do this, it does give the team another option, determining on who they play against. So, yeah, so we got the numbers, we've got the players, and it's looking good from a Liverpool camp perspective. But Nick, you were talking, you were talking about
just before you carry on. No, it's good in front of goal, and it's good for the season because you definitely need multiple sources of goals across the team, and if you are struggling to score at home, which is not done, it almost kind of takes that monkey off his back. I actually realized that the media was also saying, like, everywhere was like, Firmino finally scored. Everywhere was like, Firmino finally scored. So I guess one of those things, even himself, he's probably like, you're obviously not trying to listen to the outside world, but you obviously as well, you just want that confidence boost at home. For instance, you're doing something away from home that you're not able to do at home, and you finally obviously, got it in the back of the net, and it will obviously push on into the next game. So it's definitely good for Liverpool.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think even towards the end of last season, when he was getting pulled off the field by Klopp, he would then have moments heart to heart on the training ground and be like, coach, I'm sorry, I'm not scoring goals. And Jurgen Klopp, he literally came out saying this to the press. He said for him, he didn't even register that was a thing for him. He said, despite all the noise that was happening, he's like, Bobby isn't necessarily there on the field to do that role, because he brings the other 2 players into the game who do get the goals. So it's interesting. And like you said, for him to actually get that monkey off his back, it could be more freely or freer for Firmino. Sorry, I'm getting confused with all the English again. A Bobby, rather. It could be a good situation for a Bobby. So moving on to the one that Nick was talking about, the Wolves-Newcastle game, and how much a Wolves is missing a Jota. But Nick, Steve Bruce, the archaic man, set up the shop and he got his point. Are you disappointed about this despite the result?
Man, I don't know. Obviously celebrate the goal. It was a good sort of finish at the end. It was a bit of a smash and grab. I liked what you said in our pre-match script before the show, or it was actually one of the posts. It was a toothless performance from Wolves. They dominated. They were all over us for, I think we had 35% possession. I say it again, Steve Bruce is a dinosaur. He takes sort of his ingredients and he tries to make something, but it sort of comes out, but it doesn't at the same time. And I think he's managing results, but bizarrely. And for me, it just doesn't make sense with some of the players that we have. Some of the selections that he's making, for me, is just so frustrating. I'll take it back a step. He is so old school that he'll force a player to play through an injury that fans and the club, the fans did not know about. Shelvey's carried a groin injury for 4 weeks, and now it's just got so bad that he can't even play, and he now needs an operation. It turns out he's got a hernia. Yeah, I think Wonga's out. He's got a hernia. He's called it. Steve Bruce has called it a sports hernia, but a hernia just doesn't arrive one morning, or the next day, And Shelvey's a key player for us, So I'm thinking, as a manager or as a coach, we had an international break 2 weeks ago. There's your opportunity. So now he's made it worse by playing 2 games after the sort of international break, and now he's out until the end of the next international break. Okay, so that's one problem. Second problem comes in is Isaac Hayden's injured, so we end up playing 2 wide players in the central midfield. So Fraser, who's been man of the match for Scotland for the last two matches, is playing in the midfield next to Jeff Hendrick, and then Almiron, who's not a midfielder's arse, is playing in the midfield as well, against the likes of Neves and Dendoncker. When were we ever going to have a chance? Okay, so we set up with a back 5, and we've got Jacob Murphy, who's a winger, who's playing as a right back, essentially a wing back, and then we've got a left back playing as a wing back, which is fine. But we literally had the ball. Every time we absorbed, we just kicked it straight back to them. And for me, it's just so hard to watch, because Callum Wilson is a quality player who holds the ball up well, but there's nothing going forward. There's no willing runners, and I'm just frustrated because the man Steve Bruce has no cooking clue. He has no cooking clue of how to set the team up. I'd rather have sent in one of the under 23 midfielders to just go and do a job. Match up with Neves and get it in Donker's face, and rather playing wingers who are going to be effective going forward, but they can't get forward because they're playing next to a holding midfielder. So for me, it's just very frustrating at the club. We got a point, yes, but I mean, we didn't even try really. That was a smash and grab. Good finish in the end. Jacob Murphy, I don't know if you saw his interview. He said something.
Yep.
A bit of research.
The weaknesses of Rui Patricio that he doesn't go to the ground. Yeah.
No, true.
Yeah, man. Patricio is more worried about the post than he was about saving the ball there.
No, 100%. Yeah, he didn't put his body on the line at all. But, I think frustrating, we should have lost the game fair and square. I mean, the right result wasn't a draw. But I guess you earn your luck. Maybe they worked hard. I don't know. It's a weird sort of time at the minute. One thing I'd like to say is, I mean, it just shows you that. I think my dad and I were having this conversation. He's saying, maybe it was better if we actually lost because that would be one more game until Bruce would go. But I don't think it's going to be the case. I think he's the cheap option for Mike Ashley, and Mike Ashley's content if we get in these draws. He doesn't care if we're doing averagely well or if we're not even trying. So, yeah. I mean, it was quite ironic today or yesterday. He came out and he sent a plea out to the government and the FA or the Premier League to cancel this pay-per-view pay to watch, and that's how ironic is that. I'll give you a quick fact that actually pisses me off. He's the only owner that is still charging the Newcastle fans for their season tickets. They still charge the fans.
You can take them back, right?
Say again.
He hasn't paid everyone back, right?
So he hasn't refunded from last season. But the thing is, Newcastle have such a waiting list to get a season ticket. Those people don't want to cancel their season ticket for this season because if they do return, they don't want to lose it. So they're still charging the direct debits off their accounts. And the fans are absolutely, that is just daylight robbery. In the times where people they're losing their jobs, they're not working. And then he ironically comes out and says, oh, no, we shouldn't be charging these fans to watch the games. He must pay them back so they can pay for the fucking games. Excuse my language, but
no, it's funny, man. Please do not apologize. This is an uncensored show, so let it all out. Let it out.
But that pay-per-view thing has flopped from what I'm understanding is that it hasn't gotten much take-up. Obviously, fans live with the fact that they have to pay £15 to watch a game, and you're watching one game. Which is ridiculous, man. You're watching one game, whereas it would be better if it was £15 per month. You know what I mean? Yeah. For you can watch any game that you want on each game week, but £15 per game is
and then also consider the pandemic. I mean, it's ridiculous. But one thing he did say, I know he's trying to gain favor with the fans, Mike Ashley, but he did mention the fact that the government should subsidize some of these costs. Because the reason they're saying the price is that inflated is because they've got to be paying tax, ironically. So
I think it's a tax on it, yeah.
Yeah. But going back to sorry?
No, go for it.
I was going to say, going back to Steve Bruce and you mentioning him making players play through injuries, and you know what it feels to me? This is no different. When I'm watching the game, it feels like a PSL match. So number one, if he does get sacked, which that's not what he's aiming for, but if he does get sacked, there's always a job in the PSL for him. Secondly, is that I do think that he knows that if this takeover does happen, if it ever happens, he knows his days are numbered. So I suppose what he's trying to do, he's playing per result every game as opposed to trying to, like you said, the difference between him and a Benitez, playing between a philosophy, focusing on a philosophy, if that makes sense. So he's going to play players and he's going to push them regardless if they get injured because he knows his days are numbered. So he knows his Premier League record is on the line, and he'd rather talk about the record that he achieved at Newcastle as opposed to the greater good of the club. And I think that's where he's at.
I understand from a manager's point of view, and I said it actually at the end of last season, will I set up against Man City in a defensive way when I've got a squad makeup of Newcastle? Probably would, because ideally your sort of career is also on the line, and your reputation. You don't want to lose 5-6-0 when you could actually just lose 1-0, 2-0, and possibly get something out of the game. You know, so I do understand from the coach's perspective. Obviously, just being a Newcastle fan, where we've had so many ups and downs, we've been up at the top of the table, we've been relegated, we've been mid-table, we've been in Europe, we've had our nights in Europe, we've beaten Barcelona, AC Milan, Inter Milan. For us, that's what we just want a team that tries. And it was interesting, Kieran Dyer, I don't know if anyone remembers him, but he played for England and Newcastle, and he said, as a fan and as an ex-player, he said, the takeover needs to go through, even if it's not the big money, big oil money, but someone needs to come in with just a bit of ambition. And it just shows you, Everton, with a little bit of ambition, they fight in. Look at Leeds, with a little bit of ambition, they fight in. Villa, the same situation, you know. So Wolves, and actually the list actually goes on, and that's what's so frustrating.
Even Brighton.
Yeah, and you know, there was a commentator said something last night while I was watching the Spurs game, and he said, "You know what? I think it was Martin Tyler's assistant. I can't remember who it was, but he had said, right now in the Premier League, if you're not spending money, you actually just if you're spending money, you need to spend money to stand still in the Premier League. Yeah. So essentially, what he says is you've got to spend big to actually go and progress. So if you're not spending, you're just retracting completely. So it's like I said, it's ups and downs. I think we're playing Everton next week. Maybe it's a good time to play them. They're a little bit. They've got a few suspensions. Possibly get a victory there. I don't know. You never know. But it's just another day in the life of a Newcastle fan.
So I want to ask you this though, Nick: is if a takeover does happen, and you know there are two scenarios to this. There's one scenario where a Saudi, an example, if the takeover had happened, and there's a shitload of money involved. Yeah. Who would you then want to come in? And then there's the other option where if someone just takes over, but they're not obviously as wealthy, then what would your second choice be?
Yeah,
to manage the club.
I think just looking right now at who's available, I think Poch is a no-brainer. If I'm honest with you, I think he would only go to a project that excites him, and then you would just have to maybe look. I think an Allegri was touted at one stage. You know, I just don't know with these foreign coaches who haven't coached in the Premier League who would potentially, you know, understand the Premier League and sort of kick on. But who am I to say? These guys have won titles all over the place. I think, you know, if it was a more of a conservative decision, I would look at it maybe Steven Gerrard at Rangers. You know, I think
interesting.
I think he's doing some good things at Rangers, and I wouldn't be surprised. There's a big thing, and it's just off the Premier League, but Celtic are going for their 10th league title in a row, and his mission is to stop that. And I was on my courses in Scotland, and a lot of Celtic fans, a lot of Rangers fans on the course with me, and all the Celtic fans want is the 10 in a row. If they get the 10 in a row, the thing is, if it stops now, it's only going to happen potentially again only in 10 years, but it's not going to be 10 years. It'll probably be 20 years or 30 years, you know.
An interesting point to that is that the Rangers are the only side that haven't lost in Europe this season yet.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think he's in the mold of a Lampard. I think he's done well to humble himself to go to another country.
Please don't disgrace him like that.
I think they're both going to be good young English managers. And I think a project where he's backed, I think that's a good start. Is a team like Newcastle with a big following. It's not a Liverpool, but you know, if he gets a bit of backing and he does well, you know, you never know. So that would be more of a conservative decision.
So Nick, don't you guys have former players that are managing, that are doing something in the first division, something
they've all failed.
Ginola, I saw David Ginola as an analyst. I'm like, come on, man, David Ginola should be like coaching a League One or a League Two team in France.
Les
Ferdinand, yeah, he's director of sport at QPR, I think. But I mean, there's Joey Barton's done some good stuff at Fleetwood.
Another Steve Bruce there.
I
No,
would
No,
love
they're
to
not
see
great
Joey
passes. They're like
there's no way Ashley could
someone
employ
else,
Barton
man, like
and punch him.
Listen, Joey
surely
Barton.
every,
Joey Barton's
every
he can pass the ball. He's a
it's
technician.
players that are coaching.
Yeah, we don't have many. I mean, we had Shearer. Shearer got his stint, and I think it just hurt him so much that he got relegated with the team. I think he was thrown in at the wrong time. I think if he had gone in to do his badges and he maybe came back 2, 3, 4 years later, he would have been in the same sort of mold as like your young coaches coming through now. And I think he's just got it waxed now with the punditry. And I mean, Claudio, you were saying, you know, if you're in there, you know, Ian Wright and Gary Neville and Carragher and Shearer, they've got jobs for the next 20 years or at least 15 years, you know, because they've been there, done that, and if they keep it relevant, you know, why would he want to go and, you know, risk his livelihood by coaching a team that might not play for you? Any team for that matter, you know, it's a very risky job, and your job security in football is next to nothing. So
you know, it's a name that, look, firstly, I think the Gerrard, I didn't even think about that, but I think the Gerrard, that is a project Gerrard would take on because he's cut from the same cloth. I think he would be a perfect fit. I was more alluding to Nagelsmann, if that's how you pronounce his name, from Red Bull. I was thinking, but that for me would be your priority. Like if you had the big money, because that's a huge project. That's a young coach. He's got a big future. He's not afraid to use technology and modern methods. And he's doing everything a Klopp is doing in a way, but he's a lot younger, if that makes sense. That's even for me, it's even a solution for United if Ole doesn't make it come this season. So it's a name that hasn't been floating around. Everyone's still focused or very much fixated rather on Pochettino. But now with Zidane having his wobble at Madrid, but I suppose he just won over the weekend, the Galactical big match over there. But you know, that Pochettino name is threatening most of these coaches. So it's just going to be very interesting to see where he lands up if he decides to take a job or not become a pundit like Mourinho took for a bit.
Yeah. You know, with the Newcastle situation right now, I know the Premier League, as I was logging on here, the Premier League just got served papers by Mike Ashley. The legal team behind it, in actual fact, is Man City's lawyers that won them the UEFA ban. So,
clearly got friends in high places.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know where that leaves us with the oil money, because they might have just got tired of it and not actually they've pulled out. So technically what would need to happen is we'd need to win the lawsuit, and then we would still need them to say, hey, come and buy us. So they might have lost interest. I'm not too sure, but I think it's an attractive club to buy. And you know Nagelsmann, if he had to come in, these modern coaches, if you don't give them everything they want, like you said, they're very technology orientated, they want X, Y, and Z. If you're not going to give them what they want, they're not going to take the job. So these projects need to be very specific to, you know, what the needs of the coaches. And, you know, unfortunately, in Newcastle at the moment is not that. And it would need sort of change of ownership. Is a Man United like that right now? Is Ole getting the players that he actually wants? Who's buying? So, you know, it's to see the inside of a club and talk from the outside is very different. It's very different. We can complain about owners and clubs and managers not buying players, but it might not be. Hands might be tied at the end of the day.
That's true, because you even say that now. Like I read something earlier on. Obviously, we'll touch on to Wonga's team that Arteta and Edu, who's the sporting director at Arsenal, they didn't agree on which midfielder to get. Edu wanted Thomas Partey, and Arteta wanted Husam Oya from Lyon, and that was literally, he wanted this guy, he wanted that guy, and literally he was Edu said, no man, we're going for Thomas Partey. That's done. You know what I mean? So that's like they clashed, and no one would have thought that. Everyone was like, oh man, great signing, Thomas Partey. It's a coup for whatever. Actual fact, that's not the guy Arteta wanted. Arteta wanted someone else, but Edu wanted someone.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. I think that the reason Edu was pushing for that is because that's a deal he was working on long before Arteta arrived, while Emery was still there. So I think for his job's sake, he had to get that deal over the line to prove to the board and to everyone else that Edu, that himself, he can do the job that he was hired to do. And I think because they also had a lot of people going in, because Edu was hired underneath someone else, a sporting director, who then also got shipped out. And there's been a lot of turmoil there. And it's, I suppose, somewhat the similarities between an Arsenal and a United to Nick's point. You know, if a Nagelsmann does become available or someone wants to go after him, would he even want to go to United based on that fact? I mean, that guy was at Hoffenheim having a training session where he had a big screen and the guys would play a game and he would stop the game, make them rewatch it on a big screen and say, okay, cool, guys, this is your positioning, this isn't right. And then they would have a proper little boardroom where the team would come in on their smart iPads and everything else like that and just play position check data, pure data. So that's kind of where the game's headed. And a young guy like that does need that needs those facilities. If currently that's what he's getting from Red Bull anyway. So interesting. Wonga, your manager was crying after the match. He was very upset with VAR. He definitely felt like they were robbed. But there's also talk about him being the new Rafa Benitez. How do you feel about all of this?
Yeah, look, I think I agree with him in terms of us being robbed of that goal. But I think then again, would have been 2 points spared. I think then Leicester's goal. They deserved it. The game plan worked. They put in Vardy at the end, and they got exactly what they wanted. For me, it was disappointing. I mean, looking at Mustafi came on. David Luiz got. I mean, he's doing well. I mean, since the horrific end to the last season, and when they put Mustafi on, I mean, you could clearly see why this guy's been benched. Vardy clear in on goal. Mustafi should have at least been able to. I mean, put a little bit of pressure on him instead of having a clear shot on target. But I mean, yeah, I don't. I mean, you're gonna probably get a draw. Arsenal had many opportunities. Were dominating the game. I think for most of, especially in the first half, were dominating for most of that. And we should have put the game to bed with the other chances that we had. And yeah, I think Arteta we can complain about. I mean, that was clear goal. I mean, what frustrates me the most about the VAR decision was that. If you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the VAR, when they show it, it's exactly what those guys are seeing in the studio. Am I correct? When those guys are VAR, that's exactly. Yeah. So what happened was they just show one angle, and that's from the side, and then they just show Shaka dodging the ball, and then even the commentators agreed. The commentators are like, yeah, that's definitely offside. He's definitely in the way of the goalkeeper. Come halftime, they show the goal from behind the goals, and you see goalkeeper is far. Schmeichel is far to the right. He's moved away. As soon as the ball is about to be headed by Lacazette, Schmeichel is shifted to the right-hand post. Shaka's all the way by himself on the left-hand side, and the ball gets in. But why have they not checked that? It's frustrating. I mean, every week we're talking about something about VAR.
Yeah. The only thing consistent about VAR is how inconsistent it is. That's and how bad the decisions are. And you know, in that scenario, Wonga, it was the fact that the linesman had flagged offside. So and it goes back to the referee making a decision, and then VAR not being able to overturn the decision, and that's kind of what happened in that scenario. The players weren't impeding Schmeichel at all by any shape or form. You know, and like again, this is the thing. I could complain about VAR with Liverpool's game, spoke about it briefly. That's upsetting. But for me in that half, there's another chance. And then there's a chance that reminded me of when you used to play. And I actually watched one of your games once. You went down the wing and you smashed that ball into the box. It was a great header. All the guy had to do was get his head onto it, and it was a goal, immediate goal. And Lacazette had a similar situation, and he shat in his pants when the ball approached his head. And he fluffed it. So if he scores that, this complaint doesn't happen. Arsenal go 1-0 up. Rodgers has to change what he's doing. Doesn't wait for that secret. He almost had a similar approach to what the archaic man at Newcastle normally does. He sits back, sits deep, nice and composed, and then wait for the right moments. And he brought on Vardy and it worked to the T. And now Rodgers is a genius and Arteta's crying. So that's the problem. Lacazette for me isn't good enough anymore to be at Arsenal.
And you see, like even in that sense, Lacazette, like he when that ball, now he reminded me. He reminded me with. Yeah, look, for me, like I don't agree with the statement that he's not good enough to be with Arsenal. Not at all. I think he is good enough to be with the team, 100%. But that situation there, he shouts. He's got a point though. Trini could have made it easy and passed to his feet. Could have made it easy and passed to his feet there. It was pretty much open. But yeah, he should have put that away with his head, 100% as well. And then with that opportunity as well, I don't know if you guys saw, but it came off his head. And then Fuchs put his arm out. It hit underneath Fuchs' hand.
Nah.
What are the?
You grasping at straws, yeah. Literally, that hit him here.
Please respond, Wanga.
Please, yeah.
Come on, Wanga.
Sello.
Come on. But that can't be a penalty. Wanga,
after this match, I'm gonna go check. That's a penalty. That was a penalty.
Tell me it's a penalty rather because Fuchs put his foot up or something, man. But not
sounds
a hand.
like he's a pilot.
But yeah, even that could have been. It could have been as well. If you give it outside the box, give it in. But that definitely hit his arm. Like, why are we not checking that? It was clear.
We'll give you the offside. The offside, definitely, I agree with you 100%. It should have been a goal. I tuned into the game. I tuned into the game after the incident happened, and I saw it at halftime. And I was like, Philip, Arsenal not get this because Xhaka is not even next to Schmeichel. There is probably a meter. They're a meter apart, and Schmeichel's on the one side, and Xhaka's in the middle of the goal, and Xhaka literally moves out of the way, and it's a goal. And it's
probably the best thing Xhaka's done, but yeah, it didn't work to our decision. But
one thing
anyways,
I will say, Wanga. David Luiz's passing in that first half, he was to the T, and Partey did the same. He had the same party trick because that guy can pass a ball, and I think you definitely have a player. But you need to. Yeah. I think we'll talk about the decisions. I think every team's going to talk about VAR decisions this season. It's clear and evident. Ultimately, you needed to put your chances away. And at the end of the day, they've got 1 and you've got 0 and you've lost. So, I think it swings and roundabouts.
So, even looking at that game now, moving forward from all those decisions and stuff, I agree with you on that point as well, Nick. We should have put the chances away. Is that watching the Arsenal game, it was a bit boring. I mean, at some points, actually, most of the points in the game. And then, after people are saying that, you're missing Ozil. I mean, they obviously say that. And funny enough, now, I don't know if Ozil is playing around with this thing, but you'll see, you've seen him now. He's saying, okay, look, if I can't support the team on the field, if I can't be there on the bench, then I'll support them here at home. And he's busy tweeting like, come on, Gunners, you go. Yeah, one day should have been. So, I think my cousin told me now that I think he's apparently the biggest, I'm just going on his word, but he says he's the biggest followed football player at the moment on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's what.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
that's what his word.
Matt's got a theory. You want to tell him your theory about Ozil?
Oh yeah, I reckon you guys got to put him to work. So my idea is you got to start a TV show. Ozil and Gunnasaurus just backpacking around Europe. They got to live on 10 pounds a day. Ozil does all the work. Gunnasaurus is just the hype man. You guys can do something else. The sponsorship deal.
You're laughing about it now, but I honestly think
I'm not going to get any credit. But you guys saw it first. When this show goes live, you make sure they call me and I come in.
I think we should let's just approach them from a goal line perspective and get them to do it on our channel. I think that shit will go viral very quickly.
Before the Leicester game, Ozil posted highlights of last season's game against Leicester, where he was amazing. He scored a goal.
Yes.
He assisted one goal, and then he assisted another goal. You know what I mean? When they won 3-1.
That's a shame, man.
He posted us like, hey, just to warm you guys up before the game, let's show you what happened against Leicester City last season. And that was like a vintage Ozil performance. And it's really sad that he couldn't that game was crying out for Ozil, man. Like Ceballos had such a poor game. And Ozil, if he was on the field, he would have unlocked that defense, man. Like, oh man, it was frustrating. I felt frustrated. I felt frustrated as a football fan.
Arsenal lost their season when they rolled over against City. They were building such momentum up to that game. Then against City, they got scared. They stepped back. They reverted from their strength, and they seem to have not recovered. They've gone back into their shell. They're not dominating games. They're not grabbing it by the scruff of the neck. And they've got the players to. And it's in a way, in some ways, it's quite similar to Newcastle, where they've got the players. They've got serious talent across the squad, but they're held back by the way they're approaching games. And, you can debate that certain decisions didn't go their way, maybe this, that, the other one. But the truth is, to a large extent, you make your own luck. And, you could look at Liverpool and they had a lot of things not going their way going into the game. No Van Dijk and the ridiculousness on social media making it seem like the dude has died. But then, they made a result against Sheffield. And I think Arsenal
man got sniped, boy.
I thought that guy's part. If I was in a football match, you're right, man. I would think that Van Dijk passed on, man.
Did you see that one tweet that went viral? It's some dude like, "Oh, we did this in your memory." Like,
we're digressing. We're digressing. I'm gonna reel this back in a little bit. Stop talking trash about my side and what's going on.
What's going on, man? Like even now, on the weekend, and he does a thing, and he stays really strong. I'm like, stay strong. Like this guy's not like can't play football anymore, or he's dead. This guy's gonna be back.
Snapped leg. Eduardo, I remember snapped leg. Who was it as well? Everton player as well. Was it Gomez? Snapped leg. Theo Walcott tore his ACL. Theo Walcott tore his ACL. And no one said anything to the guy.
No one said anything. This is the world's best defender. Let me stop. Stop. I want to get back to the points. I want to say, going back to what Matt was saying. Matt was to what Matt was saying in terms of Liverpool taking their chances. If we're looking at Mane created 2 chances. Jota scored, Firmino scored, and I'm bringing it back to the Lacazette conversation, saying against Liverpool. And Matt also talking about how the season fumbled towards the City because they kind of just rolled over and died against City. But if you go into that Liverpool game, we had those chances. If he takes those chances and they come away with 3 points from Liverpool, that momentum carries on. Then they don't get so shy when they take on a City, and that result builds up momentum. So coming back to Lacazette again, now you've lost another 3 points. He has a chance, and not a bad chance, a really, really good chance. He doesn't take it again. And this is my point where I'm saying, for an Arsenal, if they want to be the Arsenal of old, an Arsenal that is challenging, an Arsenal that is winning things, and Lacazette for me has too much attitude, for my opinion, as a player when I'm looking at him. I think he's all about the glamour and he's not about the graft. And that's where I'd rather have a guy like this over my shoulder than have a guy like him in the side. At least I know he's going to be the guy who runs the most on the field. You like slating some players, but for the benefit of Bobby Firmino. You can slate this isn't for the benefit. This isn't for the benefit. It's just for the fact that he's clear. He's clear in sight. I can compare him to someone else. I like
rather say I'd rather have Edin Ketia starting. Just say that.
I have said that before on the show. I have said that, and I'd rather have Callum Wilson starting for Arsenal instead of Lacazette.
Come on.
Do you know?
Touch me, bro. Touch me, bro.
I like the point. And
listen,
I was thinking about it earlier actually, because Marcus is right. Because I noticed Nick's not wearing the black and white shirt, but he's bringing the black and white through with the beard. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I'm in the grow. Let's see if the chicks dig it.
You let us know.
I also want to
But,
say, you guys mentioned no one said anything about Theo Walcott getting injured, but Marcus also brings up a valid point. Like, look where the lad's playing. And also, when he was at the clubs, he was never playing, and he still got injured. And that's why the conversation is very different.
No, I know
Guys,
what I'm saying. But what we're saying is, nonetheless, it's the same injury. It wasn't like they're making it dramatic, like the guy died. You know, they suffered all the same injury. People suffered the worst, even more worse than.
But here's
than
the
that
thing,
guy.
though.
That's what
Wanda.
we
Here's
say.
the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. If an ordinary man in the street gets shot, okay, and he
Yeah.
goes down, It's
Yeah.
a sad thing. If Superman takes a bite of kryptonite and he goes down, who's going to talk about it? Everyone's going to be talking about Superman, not the normal man. That's the problem here. The man is at the peak of his game. That's why this thing is so tragic.
Nah. Yeah. 6 months. Yeah. Gomez's ankle was looking behind him. I mean, jeez. And people were sending him messages that I'd understand. You know, like, okay, get better. But
No, that was a bad one. Okay, wait. So before we round off the Arsenal-Leicester game, guys, Leicester now find themselves in a decent position. Do you think Brendan Rodgers can see this through? Do you think they're going to be able to mount a challenge? I mean, realistically, if we're looking at the log, they're in touching distance for the title. But do you think they can realistically land a top 4 spot?
Top 7.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. No. Guys,
Everyone's like, yeah. No,
it's early days. Like, if look at all the other games we've seen, it's been hectic. Like, results are going left, right, and center. It's difficult to predict. I agree. Arsenal let it go at City. I agree they let it go at this match again. But it's beginning. It's still the beginning. I mean, for me, it's a better start. It's a better Arsenal than they were last season. Definitely.
There's
Definitely a better Arsenal than it was last
There's
season.
a 5-point gap between number 1 and number 14, guys. Come on. Let's talk after.
And people dropped.
Hello, don't be
People
sour
panicking, they're
because
like-
your team's fighting relegation. Okay, please.
People are like telling me, "Oh, Arsenal jumped from 4th to 10th." I'm like, yeah, but look at the point difference, guys. This is early days. It's early days.
No,
Just people need to relax. Early days.
But Wonga, to be honest, your coach, man, we need to see if he's the real deal, because he's actually
What? Our coach? Oh, Ole.
Yes.
Ole Kune bought a player and put him on the bench.
No, man. Listen. Solskjaer has had his he made the top 4 last season. We'll give him a pass, but the fact that Arteta set up so poorly against Man City and hasn't taken advantage against Leicester man, like I the optimism that we all had about Arteta, it's kind of fading. Wouldn't you agree, guys?
Yep. But I'd also
No.
agree that United are
No.
fighting relegation.
Not for me.
Yeah,
Not for me. Not for me. My optimism is still there. My optimism is still there, guys. Hey, it's early days in the season. Still early days.
Is it still there, Wonga?
Yeah, my optimism is still there. Arteta, definitely. I still think he's the right man for the job.
You haven't scored in 2 consecutive games.
Yeah, 2 consecutive games out of how many?
It's also because Lacazette's playing.
guys, we are jumping in. If it was like 3, 4
I
guys,
need to speak about Spurs because this is going nowhere slowly.
yeah.
Yes. We're gonna move on.
Let's move to Spurs.
Burnley Spurs.
Can I say something about the Spurs game before?
You know what,
Man-
Sello? You always do this. You wait for me to put up the prompt about the game, and then you touch on something else, and then I've got this thing on screen saying we're talking about the game, and then we go back.
No, I'm touching on the Spurs game. I'm going to touch on the Spurs game.
Okay.
That's what I'm touching on.
Go for it. Go for it.
So I only watched the game from the second half, right? Guys, I fell asleep watching the game. I don't know
So did I.
or what. Like, I fell asleep
watching the highlights.
And I woke up. And then with the studio, guys. You fell asleep watching the highlights.
The same thing. I shit you not. The same thing happened to me as well. I had it on there and I passed out. I woke up. I was like, whoa, they won. And then I saw, it was Kane and Son. I was like, my fantasy team. Oh, amazing. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Same thing. Man. I wake up in the studio and I'm like, wait, how? But yeah, match
That's
goal.
the worst. That's the worst because you're not sure if you were dreaming the whole thing either. And then you wake up, you're like, wait a minute, did they win? Did they win?
If you're worried that you may have dreamt a 1-0 Spurs Burnley game, you probably need to really think about the kind of life you're leading, because you should be aiming higher with your dreams. It wasn't the Spurs we'd gotten used to over the last couple of weeks, the all singing, all dancing, score 7 goals kind of Spurs. But and so
what's the song doing down here? Anyway, sorry, keep going, man.
He's looking for any angle that doesn't show the Arsenal shirt. I get it.
Oh my goodness.
I took from the game were the clean sheet, which we haven't had for a very long time. So that's great. And we did look quite organized. We really looked, you think about a Mourinho side being organized at the back and defensively solid, and we looked that way. The biggest scare was in the first half where Harry Kane did that goal line header, to defend from that corner, and I think also that it was and Mourinho spoke about it after the game as well. It was really clear that the side was pulling together. Like there was a real kind of togetherness about the squad. We had to really dig out that result. It didn't look like a sure thing. And as a Spurs fan, it felt like the kind of game we would lose right at the end, because it was one of those games where we weren't getting the luck with it. The ball wasn't falling for us. You just kept feeling like they were going to score. So to come our way with a clean sheet and a fairly late on winner. And then after the winner, we did a couple of substitutions, and you start to think, given what we've done over the last few weeks, like, we're going to mess it all up now. We're 1-0 up. We're going to make a substitution and lose 2-1. So it was a positive result in that sense. And it was compared to how we've been playing, it was hugely boring. It was not the Spurs that we've been getting used to, but it's a different side to our game. And when you go away to Burnley, you are going to have to play a more boring type of football, because they're very compact, they're very organized. They don't go out and create an open game, which is where we thrive. So it was, in that sense, it was very positive. And it's always awesome to see Kane and Son just telepathically communicating again. They just do seem to really link up well. And I think it's beyond doubt at the moment they are the most lethal pairing in the Premier League. So that always gives us a chance. Even if you can
do it, yes.
Yeah. And if you
can see them in a little boy band, like if they had a boy band, they'd definitely be in the front pair. With Lamela in the background with these like little. Anyway, sorry.
Lamela's got a proper boy band haircut. It would work.
And Bale with his 9-9.
That top band. He's the bad boy of the group.
Yeah.
But I think going back to that point, I noticed, I think any team going there, even if it was a City or Liverpool, I think they were going to struggle. I think Sean Dyche made sure at one stage I think it was Sissoko had the ball in almost like a 6 or an 8 position, slightly deep, but quite far in the sort of half of Burnley, and every single player was behind the ball, and it was just like a moving wall, and it was very hard to penetrate. And I did see there was a couple of combinations that they were trying to get off, but they were just so compact and so hard to break down. Where I think you got to give credit to them, and eventually you just got to keep plodding away. And the goal was going to come, but I was worried at the end because Spurs of late, they've been toothless themselves and sort of thrown it away. So I think for you guys, that's 3 points you literally take. You get on the highway and you get back home, because you don't have to go back there. You don't have to go back there for the rest of the season, because it's not going to be easy for many teams going there.
Yeah, and in that way, it was a very positive result. And it was, I think, for the positives you take from it are that it shows there's another side to our play. We're not just gung-ho, score more than we concede kind of a game. It was a more measured, kind of patient approach, which was great to see. And I think it showed the morale of the side, the fact that they were able to keep on plugging and they didn't get disheartened and kind of end up making silly mistakes. And I think you can again look at the comparison Arsenal and Spurs there to say that both sides faced for different reasons a tough game. And a couple of years ago, it would have been Spurs who were the ones who Spursed it up, which was the famous saying. And Arsenal would have ended up winning their game. And now you in these situations, I feel like you've got a lot more faith that Tottenham are going to pull it off compared to Arsenal, where you feel like there's a bit of a softer underbelly and they're not going to quite be able to bring it home. And I think seeing Tottenham play that way, to me, is really exciting.
Disrespect, yeah.
I mean, honesty. You guys a couple of weeks ago, and since then you made me look like a mug. So that's what I'm done with you. My gallery is supporting Arsenal ended.
But Matt, I found it interesting when I was still awake. They brought on Lamela as the first sub. So what do you think about the fact that he brought on Lamela as the first substitution instead of a Bale, for instance? And obviously Bale has gotten some obviously some minutes and so forth. So I was quite surprised that he brought on Lamela, because it's not that Lamela isn't good, but Lamela hasn't been what they expected of him, and he's always been, a so-so kind of player. He will give you.
Yeah, he's overrated. Say it. Just say it, Sello.
Yes.
Don't be diplomatic on the show. He's overrated.
But he does a job. The thing about Lamela, he's not as technically gifted as a lot of players maybe, or he doesn't do, game-changing stuff. But he's a player who, a game like that where it's so tense and they're putting somebody behind the ball, he'll get in the face of defenders and he forces mistakes and he brings on fouls and he can change the dynamic of the game. I think Mourinho is very good. Yeah, I think Mourinho is very smart in the way he uses Lamela. You've seen him since Mourinho's come in. Lamela, that shithousing side of Lamela's game has gone up a level. I mean, it was always there, but he seems to have opened it. And I think
fair enough.
What Mourinho was saying there was this game is very tight, it's very compact. We need to force some mistakes out of the Burnley side, and Lamela's the player for that, because he makes defenders want to kick him, and we get free kicks out of it. And I think that's I think he brings a certain different angle to the game. And Mourinho's one thing about Mourinho you can't argue with it. He knows tactically he's a very, very good manager. And I think when he brings in, he's bringing him for a specific reason. He doesn't do random squad rotation. It's not paint by numbers. Oh, it's your turn now. You go have a runabout. It's he's got horses for courses, and he knew what he was doing with Lamela. I do hope that we start to see more of Bale. Because I think he needs a run of games to start hitting his stride, and it's going to be a while before he gets here.
To find his swing.
Hey?
To find his swing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Get his eye in, as it were.
Yeah.
But we got Joe Rodon got a runabout as well, so it was nice to see him make his debut. So I think overall, the shape of Spurs squad, I think we've got some nice guys in there, and if we can give them enough minutes to have them fit, for inevitably we will have some injuries going on down the season. If we've got enough guys, we gave Vinicius a run around in midweek in Europe, so I think we could look pretty good for inevitably when one of the guys goes down. So and I think Mourinho is quite smart with that. I think he's being very clever in how he rotates and uses the right players for the right games. So I wasn't disappointed to see Lamela come in, but and I think he's. Lamela's one of those players where if he plays for your team, you're going to love him, because he's that kind of get in players' faces and win some free kicks. It's what you want your team to do. If he played for anyone else, I know I would hate him. I think he's just a vicious little prick. But
I will say this though, Matt.
That's why I love Joey Barton, because he played for my team.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love Jamie Carragher and Phil Neville. And the list goes on and on. But one thing I will say this though, Matt, is that 2 points from first place, regardless of how the season is going, I think Mourinho is now licking his lips. If there's someone who can pull out the proverbial rabbit out of a hat. Sorry, I've killed a lot of rats here in Joburg. Yeah. If there's someone who can do it, it's definitely Mourinho. How are you feeling? What are we all thinking about the chances of Mourinho staging an upset here, guys? Is the league also up for the taking?
I think it is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
I think with the squad depth that they have, and if you can keep them fit, I don't know. I think you've got something to win this season.
Look, I've been a Spurs fan for too long to confidently predict that we could have a chance at the league. I mean, we managed to conspire to come third in a 2-horse race in the Leicester season. So it feels like a season where we should win some silverware. probably the most likely would be something like the Europa League or the League Cup. But I agree. It feels like we've got the squad that could potentially be challenging for the title. And Mourinho is the manager who knows how to do that. But there's always that level of uncertainty. There's some very strong sides out there who've got squads that have done this before. For all of our squad depth, very few of Tottenham's squad have gone that far, have won a league. And I think that's a big factor. I think when it comes to crunch time, I think we will have, it will be up to Mourinho to drag us over that last bit. If we're still in the running at that stage, it'll be very much on Mourinho to make it happen. But for the first time in a while, it feels like we should be considered in that discussion. This time last season, I definitely didn't feel that way. And in fact, every season since the Leicester season, it felt like we should have won. If we were going to win the league, it would have been that season. And this is the first time since then that I feel like we should be amongst the discussion. But I've been a Spurs fan for too long to say, yeah, I feel like we'll do it. I mean, it's just, there's too much. It's still a long season to go. I mean, even as Wonga said, there's still a chance Arsenal could end up in the top 4. You never know.
No, I know. I know. We'll be there.
All right, guys. Before one last talking point before we end this show. Nicholas has asked us: will Man City win today, or can Marseille put in a surprise in the Champions League? Man City, it's a draw.
I said to draw. Marseille lost against Olympiacos last week in Greece, playing at home. Dimitri Payet and his gang
City to win
and get a point or so forth. Aguero's not playing today. I think it'll be a draw.
Yeah,
it'll be a draw. Yeah.
I think he can't afford to drop points or not win. I mean, he drew in the week. Pep drew on the weekend. I think he's going to go gung ho and try and make sure he gets a win. I think it might be comfortable, to be honest with you.
Andre Villas-Boas wants to prove a point, guys. Come on, give him something.
Yeah, but City's going to win, in my opinion.
City win.
Wonga said it like 6 times. He's not even elaborating. He feels no need to do that. He's just saying what he thinks, and he's come a long way now. You see how confident this man is. He wasn't saying that last week. He was sitting on the fence. He's changing his mind.
Have you had a few beers, Wonga?
Wonga doesn't drink.
No.
He's high on life. But guys, Matt, what do you think? What do you think of the City Marseille game? Sergio Aguero is not playing, and he's also out for the month, by the way. So it's another issue these guys are facing. They just can't get consistent number of players on the field, or consecutive run of players rather on the field.
I think this is the kind of game City win. I think this isn't the kind of game that Pep will overthink. Where they struggle is when he overthinks something, which is when they come up against big. And I think, without disrespect to Marseille, who are themselves a very big and successful side, I think this is the kind of game that Pep will not overthink. He'll put together the basics. And on paper, City have more than enough quality across the pitch, even without Aguero, to pull this off. And I think they'll win it. I don't think they'll run away with it. I don't think it'll be 6-0, but I don't think Marseille are going to put a hand on them meaningfully during the course of the game. But then again, last time I made predictions of any sort, I was completely wrong in so many horrible ways that it scarred me for life. So
I will say this. This is probably going to be one of the very few times I agree with Sello. I'm going to say 2 words. Dimitri Payet. He's enough to do damage against the City side. So yeah, I think they might cause a little bit of an upset there, and I think Pep Guardiola is going to be left scratching that bald head of his, and he's going to be leaving with some blushes. Before we go, I know that was meant to be our last point, but Nicholas asked us one more thing. He said he doesn't believe that Liverpool are going to get the championship this year because they're losing far too many points against teams that they shouldn't be losing points against. So what are our opinions, guys?
Yeah, everyone is.
In my opinion, I think, everyone is. Liverpool, for me, probably is still the number 1 candidate to take the league, to be honest. Just everyone, like last year, Liverpool won by a large margin. They could have dropped 10 points and still win the league. Jeez. I still think so. There's still a chance they can win it.
agree with some of the stuff that Wong is saying. Is that, with Liverpool, the even losing Van Dijk, right? Cool, you lost Van Dijk, but then you still have Alisson who just came back. That is the major positive. And the fact that they've reinforced in the centre mid with Thiago, and Keita showed some form after lockdown, and then obviously bringing Diego Jota to add on to the front three. I think those additions are kind of like eliminating they're balancing the loss of Van Dijk. Yes, Van Dijk is a big loss, but then you still feel that Liverpool will outscore a team. You know what I mean? They won't outscore Villa, but they'll outscore other teams. You know what I mean? I think
there's Mr. Relegation candidate over there. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I feel is that they've strengthened those two areas which definitely needed strengthening. So the Van Dijk part is a big loss, but it will be the Van Dijk loss will make it a tighter race instead of a runaway race. But I still think that Liverpool are the favourites because City as well have big problems. And I think City was the team that we all saw as being the main contender, but they've got issues. So if City didn't have issues, then I would say City would win it, but City have issues. So
then who would you say then is the main contender? I mean, you guys are saying obviously it's Liverpool, but who amongst the others will give Liverpool a run? Because we're all saying it's not going to be clear cut, but there are going to be names involved. So who are these names going to be?
For me, there's three teams: Liverpool, Man City, and Spurs. I think it's a 3-horse race. I think you've got 3 experienced managers there that are going to go pound for pound. And I think Chelsea will be the...
No, Everton, eh?
No,
yeah,
Everton.
Continue, yeah? Yeah.
But they showed, the teams are going to drop off. I mean...
That's what everyone said about Leicester.
Yeah, but everyone's dropped off this year already. So everyone's proved it. I think Leicester just didn't stop.
Everton is Pickford, guys. You must always remember.
Yeah,
No,
so I think if you look at the 3 managers, you got three beasts of managers there. Guys that are serial winners, guys that have been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and the rest will all follow. They'll all follow. That's my opinion. My 2 cents.
Yeah.
Anyone care to elaborate?
I think it's a valid point. I think you look at the sides that of the big 6. I think United and Chelsea, for different reasons, have big question marks over their ability to compete for the length of the season. Arsenal they started really well, but there's something that they're not quite hitting, and also this weekend felt like the weekend where we all sobered up. The league started off crazy. There was just goals coming in, and Everton and Aston Villa were out of nowhere performing. And it felt like this weekend, everybody kind of sobered up and woke up and they were like, no, let's get back to serious business. There's people watching, and some reverted to type, and the results were a bit more boring and all of that. And I think over the course of the season, I still think that it's going to be Liverpool City. I'm hopeful that Spurs are going to be in that equation. It does feel like we could be, but I still think Liverpool must be the favourites for the time being. It is very early days. As Wonga said, we're not far enough to really write anyone off, and there's still, it's like Leicester could pull off another Leicester, you never know. But I think realistically, it's going to be a competition between City and Liverpool. It'd be great to see Spurs in amongst that, and you never know. And as we discussed, Mourinho knows what he's doing. We're 2 points off the top spot. It could happen, but it's a long season to go, and that experience tells. And of the current squads, you look at the makeup, both manager and players, only City and Liverpool have got that mix of players and managers who've recently had success as a unit, and I think that they're the ones who we need to watch out for. The rest of us are going to be keeping up with that standard.
Yeah.
Wonga, your 2 cents there? Is that it?
My 2 cents. Arteta was there as well when City picked the leagues up. Just in case everyone forgot. just in case. So yeah. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, so Wonga, what's interesting is with Liverpool fans for years, we'd always say next season is our season, but we're talking about the title. For Wonga, it's next season is our season for the top 4, and we're not going to take that away from you. We don't want to diminish any of those dreams. You guys are still gunning for that top 4, even though I think Newcastle at this stage under Steve Bruce will have a better chance of collecting more points by drawing and playing the long ball.
No ways.
Manchester United, do you think they go on a run now? And do you think they catch up? Or do you think it's still going to be a start campaign for them?
I think they have the. I think that. Oh, okay, Sello, you said, yeah, you go, Sello, go.
No, I think what's most important is how he sets up his teams. I think he even admitted. I said this long ago. I said this probably after the second game. I said that he needs to bench Pogba because Pogba just came back from coronavirus and hasn't only trained for like 5 days. And he's only admitting now that it was an error to start him at the start of the season because he still needed to gain fitness. You know what I mean? And he's had some good cameos off the bench, which is a much better way to integrate a player who's just had such a big illness. And obviously, you don't even know what the after effects are on him. So I think that he needs to make the right decisions in terms of how he sets his teams. But listen, the players are there to actually challenge for a title. The only question is about the manager. That is the big question about Man United. It's not the ability of the players on the field. You've got winners. You've got a World Cup winner in the squad. You've got a winner. Who's won Serie A. We've got a winner of League One. You've got people who've actually won some trophies. But the problem is the coach. Sharp. The coach has won the Norwegian League for Molde, which they hadn't won in 10 years. But
it's cold in Norway.
The big leagues, the big leagues, the top 5 leagues, he hasn't done that, and he's had some questions over his man management and so forth. So I think it will still be hanging over his head. Whereas Mourinho knows what he's doing, Klopp knows what he's doing, Pep knows what he's doing. But a Lampard, Arteta, and a Solskjaer, those guys still trying to find their feet as managers. And you've seen with the way they've been coaching that there's a lot of questions about the way they're managing their teams. Whereas there's no questions about how Mourinho's managing his team. The Mourinho question has always been will the players buy into what he wants? Man United came second the one season with him at the helm, but obviously then the next season it fell apart. But you see, that's the thing. Mourinho can do that with the team. He can win a Europa League, can come second in the league. But it's just sustained for a certain amount of time because eventually he does lose the changing room. So Spurs could definitely be a top 3 team this season because Mourinho can get the best out of. He's got the best out of Son and Kane definitely, but his defense still has questions. But yeah, we'll see how the season goes. I'm just hopeful that we can do well tomorrow, then do well against Arsenal. Do well in Istanbul, then do well against Everton, and then international break. If we can get out of these 4 games for the international break, if we can get 10 points out of possible 12, let's say 4 let's say 6 in the Champions League and 4 in the league, then
sorry, I'm
that'll
laughing
be great.
because Matt doesn't look convinced. Sello, thank you very much. I do think what we need to do is we need to get a car.
He doesn't know what that is. That's why.
We'll see. He's got your old manager now, and I think he's going to do more with Mourinho's going to do more with Spurs and the stuff, the politics that was happening at United. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining the cool down. This has been a second episode of our show. What we'll do is we'll write a letter saying do well to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and see if that helps him with their next 4 games based on Sello's recommendation. It is my nephew's birthday today, so if everyone can just say happy birthday to Cooper on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday, Cooper.
Happy birthday, Cooper.
That's it. We'll see you guys on Thursday for pre-match meet. Yeah. What is that?
We should have practiced that before. Our timing was well off.
Okay, one more time. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Cooper. Yeah, we got to work on birthday shout-outs. Anyway, we'll see everyone back on Thursday, same time for pre-match muti. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Peace.
Cheers.